Good evening. Good evening. It's Tuesday evening, and it is time for Inspiring Hope. It's Tuesday evening, and it is time for Beyond the Pain live video. Oh, thank you, Lord. Our first time together in the month of November, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. While we are getting our friends to join us, I just want to make sure that we are live in all our channels. Tonight, we are beginning a new topic, and I just want to be sure that all our friends are joining us right now. So I ask you to invite friends as well while I quickly share uh, and make sure that all our channels are live. Yeah, tonight is going to be a new topic and one that is very close to my heart because of the work that I do. We're going to be talking about you are not a victim. Oh yeah, so let's get the word out there. Let's get the word out there as we start off tonight. Let's share. Craig, good evening. Thank you for joining me. If you can type and show me where you're joining me from this evening, I would appreciate that. Want to know where you are joining tonight. Which country, which city are you in right now? It's always a joy to be in the space where we come to talk about finding purpose beyond our painful experiences. And we talk about going beyond our pain, how we transform our pain into something that has significant and meaningful impacts beyond us, how we transform our pain to purpose, to power, and profit. And this month, by the grace of God, we are starting on another topic, and that is you are not a victim. You can transform your pain. So, as usual, you know that what we do on this page is faith informed. So, it will be grounded in the Word of God to help you have a solid foundation to your journey beyond the pain and your journey of seeing life beyond what happened to you. And the truth is that at one time or the other, we are all going to experience something that is going to shake us, that's going to it's unexpected, it's unplanned for, and it brings a change with it, and a change that we did not plan for, and most often a change that we do not want. But the truth is that we have the opportunity to be able to reframe all our painful experiences in a way that takes us on a path towards spiritual growth, that can take us towards resilience and actually strengthen our faith. And that is the whole short line summary of what we're going to be talking about here. Moving from a victim mentality to being empowered to become purpose driven, to living a life that is purpose driven, and rooted in a relationship with God. The truth of the matter is that life will happen. I mean, we know that in this world, that is what is going to happen. In a broken we live in a broken world. We live in a world that is full of injustice and wickedness, and therefore bad people will do bad things to others. And We do not ask for it. We do not deserve it, but it does happen. The question is, how do we embrace faith? How do we rely on God's promises so that we do not see such events of our lives as a mark of defeat, as the dead end, as the ultimate end to life, but as an opportunity to experience transformation and to come, get to know God in a better way. There is this song that has helped me a lot in my own journey with pain. And the interesting thing is that every time my husband is asked about how he's processed our painful experiences and all the hard stuff that we have had to go through in life, he will always come back with this answer that I got to know God in a better way. And for me, having that mindset, having that perspective helps me to overcome a victim mentality. It's looking for something that I can hold on to amid the pain of that, whatever that experience may have been. And the truth is that this is not just only for us who are Christians, even psychology, in modern psychology, that concept of reframing our experiences of pain as a means of empowerment is becoming a norm. That we use our setbacks as a springboard to something new level, that we do not allow our setbacks to define us, but we anchor our identity on something that is concrete, what God says concerning us, and therefore refuse to be defined by that experience to the extent that it becomes a permanent, place of residence for us. And I'm going to share more about how pain and suffering can become a permanent place of residence if we do not transform that pain, and how that mentality of victimhood can hold us in that place where life happens to us. You're not a victim. You can transform your pain. It is a word of encouragement to you. It is to give you a sense of hope, of a possibility that will move you beyond passive suffering, for you to recognize that you have the capacity to make an intentional decision, intentional choice, and act on those choices, to move you to the place where you can experience healing and growth post what happened to you. In psychology, we talk about post-traumatic growth. That is one of the ways in which we reframe our experiences, our painful experiences, so that we see new possibilities emerging from it. But that, of course, means that we have to deal with that mentality that holds us down into victimhood. And let me share with you some foundational truths from the Word of God that we need to hold on to as anchor when we are faced with the fierce storm of adversity, when we are faced with the excruciating pain of something that happened to us. The truth is that, and it is incontrovertible, that God has a plan for you. That's what He said in His Word. And His plans are to give you prosperity, not disaster. His plans are to bring you to a future that you hope for. That's what Jeremiah 29 says, verse 11. And we also know that God will not allow us to be tested beyond our power to be able to remain firm, because He has given this promise that He's going to give us the strength to endure. The ability to be able to endure it is there. That's what the grace is for. For those of you who have known me for any length of time, you will know that Grace has become my icon word. It has become, I have made a franchise of grace because I have experienced what grace can do. It helps us to endure the hard times, to endure the painful experiences, and also to see a way out that God has promised us. Like I mentioned earlier, we live in an unbelieving and a broken world. Wickedness is rife, injustice is rife in this world because it's a broken place. It's a broken place. And in a broken place, we will experience trials, distress, suffering. But the truth is that they cannot blindside us, right? Because already we have been told that they're going to happen. They're going to happen. However, we can be of good courage because Jesus overcame the world. And because he overcame, we can be overcoming victors instead of overwhelmed victims. Let me say that again. You and I have that possibility of becoming overcoming victors instead of overwhelmed victims. I want that to sink in for you. I want that to sink in for you. Now, there is a difference between victim mentality and a victim status, right? And what do I mean by that? When something happens to us, when there is a genuine hurt, a trauma from an abuse, from a loss, from a hardship, cultivating a victim mentality is when we internalize a sense of helplessness that makes us avoid taking action. Let me say that to you again. It's a genuine hurt. It happened. It's a traumatic experience. It happened. There is no denying it. However, we now begin to cultivate a mentality where you internalize a sense of helplessness and then you do not take action anymore. And therefore, when we identify with that perpetual victimhood, it keeps us from experiencing growth. Victim status simply means that this happened. You were at the receiving end of something that happened. But it does not become a mentality, it does not become a mindset of viewing the world. Because we hear war victims, we have Holocaust victims, that is a status. We hear victims of racial discrimination, that is a status. However, from that status, we can move from having a victim status into a victim mentality. And that is where the problem begins. The victim mentality convinces you that you are a continuing victim. Somebody did that to you. It makes you think always, they did this to me, they did this to me. The whole world is responsible for what happened to me. They didn't, because they did not get their act together. That is why I am in this place. Because they did that, that's why I'm here. Because they did this, that's why I am feeling this way. I'm reacting to the situation this way. For as long as we feel that everybody is responsible, somebody else is responsible for the way we are feeling and reacting to that situation, we have been sucked into that victimhood, a place of perpetual feeling of being a victim. Of course, When we suffer injustice, tragedies, abuse, it's easy for us to feel that, yeah, I didn't ask for this. And that's a justifiable feeling. The question is, what do you do with that feeling going forward? That's where the problem is. And that's why we have the capacity, we need to exercise that capacity to make an intentional choice and act on that choice to say, yes, it happened, but it is not going to define me. It happened, but it's not going to be my status quo. Though I walked through the valley of the shadow of death, I am not going to create a tabernacle in the valley of the shadow of death and stay there. It says, I walk through. That's what it says. Not that I stay in there. Now, the trigger events that started the victimhood cycle is a tangible event, and we will not even dare to minimize it. You were hurt, you were wounded, something that was beyond your capacity to bear it happened to you. However, if that pain and hurt and wound is left untended, if you do not heal from that wound, you then become embedded in that circle of victimhood. And when we don't break that circle, we really do not get the vindication that we want. And again and again and again, I will say to you that recognizing that you have that capacity, that power to make that intentional decision that no, I'm not going to allow this to be the defining point in my life. It has happened to me. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to walk through it. And that's what we are here for on this page, talking to you about how you can walk through what happened to you, how you can heal from it so that you do not become a perpetual victim. Because it's dangerous to be a perpetual victim. Being, cultivating and exhibiting victim mentality reduces your identity. It redefines who you are. You have a God-given identity, and it will not allow you to manifest in the fullness of your God-given identity for as long as you remain a perpetual victim. The truth is that too many people around us today live in bitterness, anger, resentment over what happened to them in the past. They remain in the bondage of a memory that exists in their mind. It happened in the past. It's become a memory in your mind, and you can remain in bondage to that memory of what happened if you don't deal with it. And the worst part of the story is that this memory can become a magnet that keeps pulling you back to that familiar place of pain, anger, and despair. Because misery loves company. It will keep taking you back to the place of brokenness. That memory, if you don't walk through it and lay it to rest, will keep you in a place of perpetual victimhood. And the thing is that if we don't deal with that cycle of victimhood, the tendency is that we will pursue revenge. And sometimes it's a very subtle thing. I mean, we've watched enough movies to see the extent, the extremes that people go to revenge something that happened to them. I watched a movie recently about a man who who caught HIV from another woman while he was just meandering around. He had something happened to him. He lost his faith, and he got angry with God, and he went sleeping with anybody that he finds, and he caught HIV, and he didn't quite, know who exactly gave him the HIV, and so because he did not know who it was, he decided that he was going to infect as many people as possible. That was his act of revenge, and he was very calculating about it. If it was in a circle of victimhood, he did not heal from what happened to him. And so he opened up his life. And that's what happens, when we begin to pursue revenge in whichever way that we do it. What we fail to understand is that opens the door for the enemy to create more havoc. And there are subtle ways in which this happens. You go after, making other people's life miserable because of something that has happened to you. You become a porcupine that nobody can live with you. You are always easily triggered. And like I said, misery loves company. So it's basically saying that if I am not happy, no other person is going to be happy. The truth is that it is only Jesus who can vindicate for us. He's the only one who can vindicate for us from every injustice that has been done to us. And except we recognize the fact that even, go to the court of law if the law of the land has been broken. But still, if you don't heal, it's not going to bring you a closure. It's not going to bring you to the place of rising above what happened if you don't, first of all, examine your heart. Justice will be served by the law to the person who has wounded you or hurts you and broken the law of the land in the process. However, you can still remain in the place of victimhood, despite the fact that you have sought respite in the court of law. So it's not just about, the earthly justice that we get doesn't break that yoke. It is we recognizing that the only one who can truly vindicate us from every injustice is Jesus. And it is our Heavenly Father who has promised that He's going to make every wrong thing done us right. He has promised to work all things together for good. And right now, it may look to you, how can this situation ever work out for good? How can this experience, painful, hurtful, ever work out for good? What good can come out of this kind of situation? But I know that when we focus on the on a purpose instead of the pain, something always emerge. If we believe with all our believing that my pain is not purposeless, and that is something that I have had to learn myself. My pain is not purposeless. No, there is nothing that I go through in life that will not serve a unique purpose. It will build me up. I'm going to learn something from it. And I didn't arrive at this mindset overnight. It has taken a conscious decision, walking with God, understanding that He will not waste my tears. He will not waste my pain. And therefore, I can transform that pain into something that is meaningful, that can have eternal value, that ultimately gives me joy, knowing that that painful experience can serve an eternal value. That I can learn something from it that can benefit somebody else someday, down the road. I can grow through this experience. I choose to grow through this experience instead of becoming debilitated by this experience. I have to make an intentional choice to go through it. And believe me, I have faced significant adversities in my life, from child loss to chronic illnesses that lasted over 20 years, to losing the lungs that I came with, losing 2 legs, been there. But by the grace of God, it is possible for us to be at that point where you're going to say that this is not going to be the end of me. This setback is going to become a springboard to push me forward to the next new thing that God wants to do with me. I think first and foremost, we're going to have to shift our focus from that pain. And I know that it's difficult. We cannot do it in our own human strength, because you are hurting deeply. You're hurting. I get that. And that's why I say to you, you can heal. Healing is possible. Healing is possible for you, no matter how deeply wounded, deeply hurt you have been. Healing is possible for you. And that part of healing process is to move from victimhood into a space of an overcomer, of a victor. One thing that I find interesting is that there are the same number of letters in victim and victor. And four of the letters are the same: VICT. And it is what you put in front of it that makes the difference. Either you put I am forever lost because of this, or OR, I'm overcoming this and becoming a victor. I'm forever lost. This is the end of the road. OR, overcoming, redeemed, restored. That's what I want to experience. Victim or victor. Choose what you put in front of VICT. And that's an intentional choice. And I need us to understand that pain is a universal experience. There is not a single one of us that's going to get through life without having experienced something that will shake us, something painful, something hurtful. Except even if you're living alone in an island, which is impossible for the rest of your life, even there, that's having to stay alone, isolated in itself, can be painful. Because depending on the circumstances that put you there. So nobody gets a free pass from pain. Nobody. Even Jesus didn't get a free pass from pain. Nobody gets a free pass from pain. We're going to experience it in one degree or the other. You're cruising through life. Everything seems to be going honky-dory, and life seems to have fallen on you in pleasant places, and suddenly something unexpected happens. Life's painful circumstances shatter your life into smithereens and shift your world on its axis. I've been there, I know. You literally bend double, reeling in pain. I've been there. It's agonizing. You feel the pain literally, physically. Knowing how, why. Pain comes to us in its various forms. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be psychological. And I have been on all of them. The emotional pain, the psychological pain, the physical pain. Pain is a universal experience. I was sharing with a friend of mine recently when I had to do a surgery to remove a cyst that was growing in my throat. And it was getting bigger and bigger by the hour. And my doctors were literally, scared that it was going to block me from being able to breathe. I had not had a lung transplant yet, so my respiratory was compromised. So anything that will prevent me from being able to breathe is a risk factor for my life. And so the doctors decided that they're going to take the cyst out. But the problem here is that they cannot put me under general anesthesia. I might not wake up because of my compromised respiratory problem then. And so they had to do that surgery under local anesthesia. Despite the local, that was excruciating pain. Hearing something sizzling, cutting your neck, and all the maneuvering, and at the same time with a ventilator mask. And because they could not strap the ventilator mask because of the arc in which they needed to put my neck, somebody had to hold it down. So every pressure of his hand, I was feeling it, in addition to the pain in my throat. While the causes and intensity of our pain may differ, yes, the intensity and the causes of our pain may differ, but the way we respond to the pain will play a significant role in shaping the future. The way you respond to that pain will play a significant role in shaping the future. You can become angry about it to the point that that anger consumes you, or you can ask yourself, what purpose can this pain serve? I'm glad I had the grace of God available to me to tap into. And I can tell you of a truth today that the pain serves a purpose. I can come here and testify of the grace that sustained me in that season of my life. By the time the doctors finished that surgery, they were amazed. They were actually saying, how did you keep yourself from screaming? And I didn't really think about screaming. All I could do was just pray in my heart and ask God to hold my hand through that process. All I was just saying, God, hold my hands, hold my hands. And so even the doctors that operated on me knew that there was something different. They could see there was something different that could enable someone to go through such a painful experience without lashing back at everybody in the room or cursing them. Now, what happens to us is always the initial break. That event, that singular event or multiple of events, is the first break. However, if we leave that break unattended to, if we leave it untended, if we do not treat that wound, the pain then makes us vulnerable to more damage. Have you ever found yourself driving on a highway and all of a sudden from nowhere, a little pebble just slams into your windscreen and you can literally see the cracks coming. And the more that you leave it there, the more the cracks expands, the more it expands, and it can actually destroy the entire windscreen if you don't treat that crack immediately. And that is the same thing with us. When something hits us, it shatters us, but it makes us more vulnerable to further damage. Because remember, I mentioned that pain becomes a magnet that pulls us back into that familiar place of pain. And so if we leave that wound in our heart unattended, we never leave the wound on our body unattended. We go straight to the doctor. But a lot of times we leave the wounds on our heart, those emotional wounds unattended. We think that I can deal with it by myself. But the truth of the matter is that we hardly do. And when that pain continues to hammer and hammer and hammer at us, we find ourselves developing all those negative emotions of bitterness, of anger, of hatred. And before you know it, you are cowering under the pressure of that pain, becoming a victim with the mental pathways to victim mentality becoming entrenched in your mind. One thing that gives me great joy is that no matter how intense our painful experiences may be, they never escape God's knowledge. They never escape Him because He's so mindful of every detail of our lives, right? And the reason why there is pain in this world is because of the access that Adam and Eve gave the devil to be here to mess things up. And so please don't say, so why doesn't God stop it from happening? No. We make the choice many times to keep God out of the picture. And many times God uses that painful experience to prepare you for a unique, only you can fulfill purpose. One thing that I know today is that I will not be doing what I'm doing here today if I didn't go through all the pain, all the challenges and adversities that I've had to face in my life. And that's why it gives me great joy that God takes note of our pain. He takes note of our troubles. He takes note of our suffering. The Bible is very clear about that God pays attention when we are in pain. He notices the mischiefs, the acts of injustice that is being meted on us. And believe me, He punishes it in His own way, in His own time. And the truth also that I want you to keep in the forefront is that God is always ready to help us. So when we put our trust in Him, we'll receive the grace that can help us to endure the process. We walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We fear no evil. Not because there is no evil to be feared, but because He is present with us as we walk through. He says, when you walk through the fire, I will be there with you. When you walk through the waters, I'll be there with you. And that gives us comfort that we are never alone. If you're a child of God, you are never alone when life happens to you. And that consciousness alone can help us to keep victim mentality at bay. I want you to know, my dear friends, that the Lord Almighty is your defender. He is your strong defender. He will fight for you. He will fight to vindicate you. You have been a victim of injustice. Make sure it's only a victim by status. You have been a victim of unfair treatment. Just make sure that you're only a victim by status, not by mentality, not by mindset. God will never let you be defeated. He will fight for you. And His measureless grace is available to overflow into your life when we leave the matter in His hands and let Him fight the battles for you. You know, a fight that you cannot even fight by yourself and win, you might as well give it to the person who knows how to fight for you and defend you. And when you're able to do so, you push back that pull, that magnetic pull into the place of victimhood. You are not a victim. You don't have to be a victim of what happened to you. You do not have to be a perpetual victim. You do not need to be in the circle of victimhood. You can break that circle. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. And so today is the first part of the series, You're Not a Victim. And I'm going to be talking about this over the next 4 weeks, throughout the month of November. We're going to look at how can we walk through what has happened to us? How can we transform that pain so that we do not acquire the mentality of a victim? I want you to know that for as long as we live in this world, there will be suffering, there will be pain. It's coming from the sin and the brokenness and the fallen nature of the world. But be of good cheer. You are equipped. You are called. You have been chosen to be an overcomer, to be a victor. And you have that power, that possibility to live a life beyond your painful experiences that makes you a victor and not a victim. Pain is a reality that none of us can deny. But I want to be prepared that whenever it comes, I'm going to find purpose through it. I'm going to process it, and I'm going to make it deliver to me value. And no pain is just going to come into my life and mess me up and just go and leave me like that. No way. You try me, you're going to deliver value to me, because I am going to use that painful experience as a raw material. I'm going to process it, and I'm going to transform it into something that is useful, not only for me, but for others. And that's the way we can move beyond victimhood. Remember, victim status is different from victimhood mentality. Victimhood mentality stays in the place where life happened, and it begins to blame every other person for what has happened, and does not make the choice to get up from that place and see, what can I learn from this experience that can become useful in the long run. And when we are in the pain, it's difficult to see beyond it. And that's why it's important for us to have access to these promises, these words of encouragement that tells us we are more than what happened to us. You are more than what happened to you. And what happened to you cannot define your identity if you do not allow it. Read my lips. I'm going to repeat it to you again. You are more than what happened to you. And that thing that happened to you that wounded you cannot define your identity except you allow it. You have the capacity to make an intentional choice to go beyond that painful experience and to discover what it can deliver to you. You have that capacity, God-given enablement to go beyond the pain. But then it requires you to see yourself in your original identity as a victor, as the one who is more than conqueror. My friends, you have to find your identity in who God says you are, not in your painful experience. For as long as we allow that mentality of victimhood to be entrenched in our brain, to be entrenched in our minds, then we will define our identity by the painful experience that happened to us. And ultimately, you and I will need to get to that place where we begin to look differently at our painful experiences and see it as a process, and realize that there is purpose to the pain. It can serve a purpose. You will grow through it if you allow it to teach you something. If you decide that this setback is going to become a springboard Then you're going to become a better version of you. You're going to the next level, to the next new thing that you can experience. It will refine your character. It will produce perseverance in you. It will help you to produce hope. I see pain as a refining process. And that's why I say, whatever happens to me, that wounded me, that hurt me, I'm going to see it as a raw material that needs to be processed. And I want to see what can be produced, what can come out of it. Pain, suffering, adversity can become a refining process. It is like the furnace that gold goes through so that it can become brighter, shiner, purer. Your faith, having gone through this experience, can become purified. And remember, your faith has more value than gold. When we see our painful experience with the lens of faith, when we choose to see it with the lens of grace, when we choose to look at it from the lens of possibilities, then it will become a means in which God can deepen our spiritual maturity and deepen our intimacy with Him. Like I said at the beginning, I got to know God in a better way through my painful experiences. I got to know God as a father who would never allow his child to cry without a reason. The father who stays close with his hands cupped to collect your tears and will never allow a single drop of your tears to drop to the ground. It's incredible what emerges when we choose to transform our pain, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. It's incredible what comes out when we choose to see our experiences with our eyes of faith and filter it with a lens of grace. Ultimately, one thing that I know is that God can use our present and past pain as a preparation for our future ministry. And like I mentioned earlier, I definitely would not be doing what I'm doing today if I have not gone through those painful experiences. Today, I have a foundation that provides prosthetic limbs for amputees, not only in Nigeria, but now in Uganda. Who would have thought that losing 2 legs will lead me to discover that purpose, that my life, my story can make a difference for others? That will only happen if you refuse to be a victim of what happened to me, to you. I am an amputee. Yes, double amputee, 2 legs. I am a lung transplant survivor. My lungs that I came into the world with are long gone. I have new sets of lungs that were donated to me by an unknown benefactor. And because of all of that, my story is bringing hope and encouragement to others. And that can be your story too. If you process your pain and transform it and refuse to be sucked into victim mentality, sucked into victimhood. When we transform our pain, it leads us to the paths of healing, and we become testimonies of God's faithfulness. We become the vessels that conduit hope to others and encouragement to others, and we can tell them, my dear friend, I know that healing is possible for you. I know that you are not a victim, that you have that power of choice. You have that agency to say, no, I will not be defined by this experience. I'm going to ride this storm. I'm going to grow through this storm. I'm going to grow some unusual muscles as a result of this experience. My dear friends, if this resonates with you, I hope you would take a moment to pause and ask yourself these questions. In which ways, in which area of my life am I playing the victim? Has my painful experience, past painful experience, have I healed from them? Or are they holding me back into the place where it happened? Is it still as raw as the day it happened, even though it's decades afterwards? I would really want you to take a moment and think about this. And if it's still at raw, if it's still as raw, it means that you need to heal. And if you need help, please, I'm only a DM away. My name is Irene Titilola Olonese. I'm a faith-informed, transformational, and trauma coach. I help people to transform their pain to power, to purpose, and to profit. I help people to reframe the way they see their past painful experiences and to begin to see the future of possibility beyond the pain. That's what I do. That's what I bring to the table. And if you need help, you need support, please feel free to reach out. You can heal. You are not a victim. That thing that happened to you is not your permanent house address. And what the victimhood wants to do is to keep you in that place as long as it can. But you can say today, enough. I stop. No more. I'm going to go beyond this experience. And I'm going to heal. And I'm going to become a better version of me because of this experience. No pain is going to define me. And truly, friends, I think it's a double tragedy for something to happen to us and we never get to heal and live a life beyond it. It is indeed a double tragedy for something painful to happen to us, to break us, to shatter our world, and we never get to heal from it and use it to become a stepping stone to greatness. That indeed is the tragedy of victim mentality. I hope what you hear today will inspire you to spend some time to reflect on your life and your experiences and to ask yourself, where do I need to heal so that I can break the cycle of victimhood? You can. I know you can. Because you are made for possibilities. And I'm not denying what happened to you. The process is not about minimizing what happened to you. No way. It is healing from what happened to you. Acknowledging that it happened, but choosing to heal from it and to transform it. Join me next week, Tuesday, by the grace of God, as we continue on this topic. You are not a victim. You can transform the pain. I look forward to having you with me next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m. West African time, 9 p.m. Central European time, and 8 p.m. GMT. Thank you for joining me this evening. If this has been meaningful for you and you're taking away something, please share your takeaway in the comment box. It will be a blessing to someone. Good night and God bless you. Bye for now.